Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Women in Society. My name is Fatima Deuji Jaffer and I'm going to discuss various issues affecting women in our society. Today, I want to speak directly to youth, especially to the girls. A lot of young girls ask me, what has helped me become a successful businesswoman, a successful golfer, a successful person? While I don't think I have a set formula to success, I can say that I've found a few things that I believe have worked for me over the years. But first, for me, success is not a goal. Success is a way of life. It's a never-ending process. One thing I know is that I don't think I will ever wake up one day and say, wow, I made it, and kick back and relax. By nature, I love to work. I love to learn. I love to grow, and I love to make a difference. For me, that is what defines success. Never settling, always growing, and leaving an imprint in this world. Curiosity, knowledge, bravery, and growth. All these things are the key to success. Allow me to elaborate. Albert Einstein once said, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. Why is a theoretical physicist talking about curiosity? Because curiosity is the root of knowledge. Curiosity is the driving force behind every major breakthrough, every symphony, every invention. Without it, why would people disrupt the status quo? It's mind-blowing to think of how stars, millions and billions of miles away in space, can be seen by the naked eye on our tiny planet. If you look up at the pre-dawn sky, you will get to see the morning star, which is not a star at all. It is in fact the planet Venus, which happens to be the evening star as well. I find it amazing that people long ago looked to the stars and found so many things, from the rotation of the earth, to navigation, and even to the rich stories people told in an attempt to explain what they were. Curiosity begets imagination. And imagination is the first step to turning the impossible into something possible. I'm curious about everything. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I do not know. While that may scare some people, it doesn't scare me. On the contrary, I love it. Do not be afraid of the unknown. No matter what you decide to do, always be curious. Never let your curiosity die. Let it be your driving force. Now, curiosity leads to knowledge, and knowledge is gained through education. There are two main types of education, formal and informal. Formal education is what society uses to determine your worth, your earning potential. A lot of emphasis is put on formal education. While people spend a considerable amount of time, money, and effort to get into the best schools possible, you end up spending a significant amount of your life in school. Education is a foundation of mobility and worldly success. Without it, or without a substantial amount of it, climbing the corporate ladder or running for political office would be an uphill battle. However, formal education can sometimes be too rigid. With the emphasis on standardized exams, sometimes schooling can kill curiosity and imagination. The way to remedy this is to stop and think about what motivates you. Do good grades motivate you? Do your parents motivate you? Or are you motivated by intrinsic desire to learn? Intrinsic motivation is a desire to achieve because of inner rewards, or in other words, learning for the sake of learning. Extrinsic motivation is when you're driven by the outer rewards, such as grades. It's a lot easier to move forward if you're intrinsically motivated. I understand that you cannot be intrinsically motivated about everything. But find what thrills you, what captures your attention, which brings me back to the type of education. Aside from formal, there's also informal education. With informal education, you have the freedom to learn what you want, whether it be carpentry or astronomy. You are not bound by the classroom, and as long as you're curious and motivated, you can continue to learn forever. One of the most motivating speeches I heard was from Steve Jobs at his commencement address at Stanford University in 2005. He dropped out of school and instead decided to just sit in the classes he enjoyed. Steve Jobs said, Reed College at that time offered perhaps the best calligraphy instruction in the country. Through the campus, every poster, every label on every drawer was beautifully hand calligraphed. Because I dropped out and didn't have to take normal classes, I decided to take a calligraphy class to learn how to do this. I learned about serif and sans serif typefaces, about varying the amount of space between different letter combinations, about what makes great typography great. It was beautiful, historic, artistically subtle in a way that science captures, and I found it fascinating. None of this had even a hope of any practical application in my life. But 10 years later, when we were designing the first Macintosh computer, it all came back to me. And we designed it all into the Mac. It was the first computer with beautiful typography. If I'd never dropped in on that single course in college, the Mac would have never had multiple typefaces or proportionally spaced fonts. And since Windows just copied the Mac, it's likely that no personal computer would have had them. If I'd never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on this calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have had the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible for me to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backward 10 years later. I don't advise you to ever drop out of school. My 4 years at Georgetown University were by far the most rewarding years of my life. I took classes that excited me, met professors that inspired me, and through my friends got to learn about different cultures, religions, and traditions. All experiences I would have missed out on without my university years. In fact, if I would have not stepped into my management class and met Professor Bees, I don't think I would have found my passion. My passion to make a difference. My passion to educate, empower, and inspire women. I remember my management professor would start every class with the same lesson. Success and happiness, he said, comes from finding a purpose that is greater and higher than yourself and making a difference in the world that you live in. It was through these words that I started Educate, Empower, and Inspire. Now I want to talk a little bit about informal education. My informal education is achieved mainly through one medium, reading. Reading is a master key that opens most doors, and through those doors are numberless worlds. It was not until the final years of high school that I discovered the magic of reading, and once I started, I did not stop. It is never too late to start reading for enjoyment. It may be hard to start getting into the habit of it, but if you pick anything that interests you, fiction or non-fiction, you will get drawn in before you know it. If a book bores you too much, you can always put it down and pick up another one. You can return to it at a later stage. As long as you keep on reading, your pace does not matter. Plutarch once said, "The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled." Learning is not finite. It keeps growing and must be tended to with care. Learning is so important that it is continuously emphasized in Islam. This is obvious when one takes a look at the Quran and the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which are filled with references to learning, education, observation, and the use of reason. The very first verse of the Holy Quran revealed to the Prophet of Islam reads, "Recite in the name of thy Lord who created man from a clot. Recite, and thy Lord is the most generous, who taught by the pen, taught man that which he knew not." The pursuit of knowledge and the use of reason based on sense and observation is made obligatory on all believers. We all grew up learning the traditions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Many of us were asked to memorize a lot of these sayings of the Holy Prophet that supplement the teachings of the Quran. Seek knowledge even if you have to travel to China. The acquisition of knowledge is compulsory for every Muslim, whether male or female. The ink of a scholar is more sacred than the blood of a martyr. Seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. The Islamic Empire for more than 1,000 years remained the most advanced civilization in the world. The main reason for this was that Islam stressed the importance and respect of learning. The teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah inspired many Muslims to their accomplishments in science and medicine. Islam emphasized learning for both men and women. The pleasures of learning lead to happiness. One can live a long, healthy, and rewarding life by attaining and preserving the happiness of learning. I will now speak about bravery. What I mean by this is following your dreams. Even if they are uncertain or scary, the people around you do not approve. The burden of disappointment in foregoing your dreams will not be carried by best friends, loved ones, advisors, or naysayers. It will be carried by you. The most motivating moments in my life came from people that told me I couldn't do something, from people that underestimated me. Do you know why? Because when they told me I couldn't do it, I was bound and determined to show them that I could. My advice to you is this: even when you're struggling, even when you're discouraged, and you feel like other people have given up on you, don't ever give up on yourself. Because when you give up on yourself, that is when all hope is lost. When you have a dream, you have to protect it. When people can't do something themselves, they want to tell you, you can't do it. This is because their vision is limited. They can't see the possibilities that you see for your future. There's always a chance of failure, but there's also a chance of success. You will never find out if you do not take the first crucial step. Society has one goal: to move the collective ahead while protecting the status quo. If you step out of line, society will discourage or even punish you for breaking from conformity. But take a moment to think about history's greatest people. It has always been individuals who are willing to risk the approval of society and the comfort of conformity to fight for what they believe in. What is better example than the example of a great man? A man that saw his family slaughtered in front of his eyes. A man that saw the women in his family tortured. A man who 1400 years later is still remembered for taking a stand for the truth. A man whose resilience has inspired people. It has inspired movements, and it has inspired revolutions. If you do not study the history of Hussein, you will not understand why Gandhi was inspired by him. Gandhi then inspired Dr. Martin Luther King, and Dr. King then inspired the entire civil rights movement. I know that it might be hard to take the first step if you have self-esteem issues. With the spread of social media, it may seem like everyone is watching your every move, that they are comparing you to everyone else. You must remember that social media only shows the highlight reels of someone's life. You do not get to see the backstage. Do not compare yourself to others and focus on yourself. Strive for what you want and what you think is right, without caring for society's expectations of you. Popular author J.K. Rowling once said, "It is impossible to live without failing at something unless you live so cautiously that you might as well not have lived at all, in which case you fail by default." Some of the most successful people in the world are the ones who've had the most failures. Did you know J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter book was rejected 12 times before it was finally published? Or that Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team? He lost hundreds of games and missed thousands of shots during his career. But he once said, "I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed." Finally, I will speak about growth. I believe that no one stops growing. You can grow as an infant just as much as you can grow as an adult. And although it can be scary, it is necessary for life. Some fundamentals of your character may stay the same throughout your life, but you must continue to grow and expand. Staying the same may keep you safe, but it will not improve anything. Always seek improvement. Read, experiment, observe, listen. Don't be ordinary, normal, but be fearless. I'll leave you with a quote by Steve Jobs. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I hope you all enjoyed today's talk on the keys to success. I'd love for you to share some of your personal stories of success and failure and the way it has shaped you. Feel free to share your thoughts through our Facebook and Twitter accounts. Also, I'd love to know what topics interest you and what you would like me to discuss in my future videos. Thank you.